Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Kevin's Upfront Opinion today. So, today, what I thought I'd do is do a brief video about masculinity and toxic masculinity. Now, the reason I thought I'd do this was because there was no football on last night. I thought, right, go and watch a bit of Netflix. I came across this program that the legend that is Danny Dyer did. Okay, and it was basically him doing a documentary about what it is to be a man, basically. Because me and Danny Dyer, we're not that much in a way of age gap. I think he's like round about my age, I believe. I'm what 48 years of age in about a month's time. So I started watching it. Okay. And at the beginning, he did this like test, and it came up that he was toxic. He was toxic. Okay, right. So I thought, right, and this was a two-part series. So I went and spoke to my wife, and I said to her, I said, "What do you think? Do you think that being masculine is toxic nowadays?" And she said no. She said the problem is men nowadays in today's society are wimps. They're soft. They're weak. They're woke. She said, if you ask the modern day guy, right, would he be able to put a shelf up? Would he be able to plumb a washing machine in? Would he be able to change a tyre? If you went back through the ages, okay, and you could go all the way back to the 50s or even before, they'd normally be in the shed, with their drill and hammer and nails and everything, you know, doing bits and pieces. If you think, for instance, one of my mother's first Christmas presents, she got given, I think it was a pram. It was a pram or it was a cot. It was one of them. And my grandfather built it, okay, for her for Christmas. Okay, built it by hand, put it all together with spare scraps of wood and everything. Okay, then painted it and varnished it and then gave it to her for Christmas. And she absolutely adored that present. Now, into that, and I appreciate we've got a lot more money, so you wouldn't have to go and do something like that. You could go to your local toy shop, or as most people would do nowadays, go onto Amazon or whatever, okay, to go and get a pram or a toy cot for your daughter nowadays. But that's what my grandfather did. But if you asked men nowadays, would they be able to do it? And I would just suggest 9 times out of 10, they wouldn't be able to do it. And a lot of people would say, yeah, but what's this really got to do with being masculine? And it's got quite an important thing, because men's importance is stature, what people think of them. It's like I always say, I couldn't give a monkey's what people think of me. If they don't like me, they don't like me. I couldn't really care less. But the reality is that's not really true. All men always care what people think of them. Okay, they do. Stature. They care about stature. They care if what their in-laws think of them. They care what their friends think of. If they're married, they care what their wife's friends think of them. How many of them have got a bit of a thing for. No, that really does our ego in the world of good. Especially my ego, especially when I'm speaking to my wife. Okay, but that's an argument for another day. So when you look at that type of thing, it's really important. But the fundamental problem that we have now is, because of the woke generation we've had over the last 20 years or so, we've now gone to the route of toxic masculinity. Okay. And the question is what is toxic masculinity? Because everybody thinks it's something different. So what I did, I actually Googled it. Okay, and this is what it says. Toxic masculinity is a concept used in academic and media discussions to refer to those aspects of hegemonic masculinity that are socially destructive, such as misogyny, homophobia, and violent domination. These traits are considered toxic due in part to their promotion of violence, including sexual assault and domestic violence. Socialization of boys sometimes also normalizes violence, such as saying boys will be boys about bullying and aggression. Now, the reality is this: a lot of the reason we have a problem to do with toxic masculinity is because of certain people on social media. And because, especially youngsters, are fixated with social media. You know, my kids, they can't keep their phones down. It irritates the hell out of me, especially when they go to have their dinner and they've got a bloody phone in their hand and they're watching YouTube, watching some rubbish. Irritates the hell out of me. Maybe that's because I'm getting old or something. But the problem is, you've got a lot of these idiots, and I will call them idiots. I would actually call them stronger than that, but I don't want to get myself sued. Not yet today, especially as I ain't got much money. Okay, when you've got the likes of Andrew Tate and all these other absolute and utter morons who go on to the likes of YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and put their like little chats saying all my girls and all my wives, they know their place, they need to stay at home. If I ask them to give me a blowjob, they have to do it. When I say I want to get some, they have to put out all this kind of crap. Okay, because that's what it is. It is BS. Okay, because they're not real men. You know, they got. You know, a real man's never going to say that in a million years. Okay, nothing wrong with wanting to get some with your wife, and I truly mean that. You know, and the other classic one I actually saw recently is one saying that if you meet a girl and she's been with more than 5 men, okay, she's worthless. What a crock of shit. You know, and I'll openly admit, and I hope I don't get in too much trouble for this, I've never even asked my wife how many men she's been with. Now, we never met. We've been together since 2014. So getting on for 12 years. Okay. She's 36. I'm 46 this year. Okay. So she would have been, what, 34 at the time when we got together. Okay. I've never even asked her. Why? Because I could care less how many men she's been with. She could have been with one. She could have been with 50. I ain't going to care less. Doesn't mean she's worth any less, because she may have been with a few more people. She may have been with more people than me. I very much doubt that. Okay. She may have been with a lot less than me. Probably more likely. Okay. But that is reality. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. Anybody that's saying this, okay, one, I would actually argue that they don't really think much of themselves, or maybe they're actually lacking a little themselves. And that's what it probably actually boils down to, that they can't actually stack it up. Arguably, maybe even in the bedroom. Maybe they're lacking a little bit. Maybe they come up a little bit short. Maybe that's true for you, Andrew. It's, whether it's true or not, I don't know. Nobody's actually come out and said, you know, how big or short you actually are. But we'll cut it a bit short there for now, because I don't want to get too personal with Andrew Tate and all these other morons that are on TikTok. Okay. Now, the next reality is we'll take a look at this. Now, anybody that says a woman deserves a slap, they don't deserve a slap, because any self-respecting man is never, ever, ever going to hit a woman. Any man that gets caught getting one, they get a pounding, they deserve it. Because the way I got brought up, I always got brought up, you never lay a hand on a woman. That's the way I got brought up. Okay. You do not, under any circumstances, do it. I've never laid a finger on my wife, my ex-wife, any of my exes. Never laid a finger on any of them, and I would never think to lay a finger on them. So when you actually take a look at toxic masculinity, it's bullshit, the whole lot of it. All these people that are going down this route, okay, they need to grow up. That's what they need to do. So all these people spouting all this BS on YouTube and TikTok, all they're doing it is to get clicks. And to get clicks on all these platforms, it's not difficult. It really ain't difficult. It's no different. And I openly admit I did one a few months ago. Did a video about Ian Huntley. Okay, because I run a newspaper. And I thought, right, daughter's gone and said, what was it? I'm trying to remember what she actually said now. That he doesn't deserve a funeral and his ashes should be flushed down the toilet. And I went and put it on TikTok and I got something like 60,000 views. Saying, do people agree with it? I know what people are going to say. I ain't stupid. I did it to get clicks. Okay. Because I know what people are going to say. Okay. Ian Huntley, he was the lowest of the low. So what's the point of doing this? Because you're not saying anything sensible. You're just making yourself look like a prime prick when you actually do this stuff, saying women are this and that and everything else. Because it ain't going to age well for you. If you look at it 5 years' time, 10 years' time, you're going to be embarrassed of yourself. And the reality is, anybody really going to want to know you? Because you may decide, right, I want to start a family. I want to have a proper life. And women are going to be looking at it thinking, fuck off. I don't want to have anything to do with you. And that's the reality. And that is the true reality. And that's what, as a country and a society, we need to get away from. Because people that you would describe as toxic masculinity, you need to get away from them. You need to stay as far away from them as humanly possible. Because not one of them has got one shred of intelligence in their entire body. Okay? And I don't care. They can come and contact me and try and debate me on it. They ain't got any intelligence. They may have more money than me. But there again, I've got 6 children as well to look after. So that might be an argument for why I ain't got any money. So let us know what you think. If you think I'm wrong, and if you're brave enough to tell me that I'm wrong, and that toxic masculinity is a good thing, you're bloody brave, and I'll give you your dues. But there's nobody that's involved in it has got a shred of intelligence at the end of the day. Okay. And is masculinity toxic? No, it's not. It's far from it. Because the reality is, most women in today's society want somebody that's masculine. They don't want some weak idiot. So let us know what you think in the comments down below. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you all again a bit later.